talking about the
one over at Cleveland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But listen, between now and now, we're all over the west trying to get as much as we can on the west.
Yeah.
And Shirley, why she's interested, why she's so much interested, there's a lot of people over there west. And her husband's mother was a west. Cleve MacDonald's mother was one of the west, reared over there in around Cleveland. And so she's a very...
Now that's White County.
That's White County.
Now, what I think from the names you're showing me there, we can check against the names that appear in some of the courthouse records and others.
Yeah.
There's so much repetition of
Yeah, I
same
don't think
names.
this little book's worth one dime to you.
No,
I didn't see his worth.
Well,
I agree with you. I don't think the book, I think the book deals with another whole brand.
Yeah,
of
a
people.
West.
Yeah, the West
Yeah.
parts of it.
In England, it's from some other country.
Now, there's another problem is where are those, the only West that you're tracing back to, you run into that group of Sam, Bill, Jimmy, Jonathan, Ben.
Well, they're on back.
I agree, but now I can't
Okay.
tell whether the list, if that's why I appreciate the opportunity of Xeroxing them. And if we could do the census of Gilmer at the same time that we did the census.
We just can't get Gilmer County. Pardon me, west to come. The most time we're getting older,
Well,
and they claim,
He can go to the...
I can go back for this reason.
they
Some of this
claim
stuff,
it's too far away.
yeah, well, it I've published though, it has to use census materials, and we've got it available at the university. So if what we could do is determine that, say, the James West in 1840 that's showing in Habersham, but there's a James West showing in Gilmer,
That's right.
then you're not tracing the
That's
same
true.
ancestor. We're
That's
going to have to
right.
go back to a different ancestor.
Oh,
Well,
now, we've even been, Lillie, to the cemetery at Ebenezer. I went with, we carried Shirley, went through that cemetery, and we went to Harley West grave, we went to
Right.
a whole bunch of West graves, and she copied this off, from,
Mhm.
Mike needed some.
We've done it, and let me just show you what a little bit of what you're talking about there right now, if I have the right pages. The oldest, you're not getting back very far. Now here's one. JFM West grave is a good one that goes back pretty far. And that's bound to be Uncle Jonathan from the way he appears on other records. He uses the initials JFM. He shows he's born 1840, dies 1911, and Lillie can remember, that's the right time for
Yeah.
Uncle Jonathan to be dying. He's also married to the right person because his wife doesn't show her maiden name, which she shows as Martha L. And then we think it's Martha L. Spriggs.
It was.
Right.
It was,
And she's
right.
shown as born 1845, 5 years younger.
Spriggs.
It's all putting together. But now what we don't have, and we'd have to go to a lot more cemeteries, is like to pick up that same generation, you see. Like Sam, where did he die, Take Ben, who would be
See,
what?
in Arkansas, you see, some of these like
Ben
this.
would be there.
Would that,
Yeah.
that's what I want to see, if that's what you're saying. Did Ben go to,
No, he went to Alabama.
Was it Alabama?
well, now you're talking about your uncle.
Yeah.
Talking about your uncle, but if you go back
To the Ben.
to your
both
father,
sides.
Joe, where is he buried?
Ebenezer, Gilmer County.
He's buried in Ebenezer.
Yes.
So
His
he'd
grandmother.
appear in my list here.
That's right.
I guess.
Now, if we go back to his father, do we have anybody who knows?
Well, see, his father was killed during the war, died with pneumonia fever during the war with us between the states, I guess.
You're speaking about young Ben? I mean, of the youngest of those brothers?
There's Ben's,
The father of
Grandpa.
Joe?
yeah.
Father of
Ben's
Joe
grandpa.
died during the Civil War?
Yeah.
That's right.
Is that right? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he
I
died.
didn't either,
I
but I
thought it
never
was.
knew.
Did you ever know that? I didn't hear that before.
I thought
I
it
never
was.
knew.
Let me ask this, did you ever hear whether his older brothers served in the war? Were they old enough to
There
serve?
wasn't a Butte West, there's a Butte Bearden.
A what? Are you in the Beardens or the
Oh,
West?
we're in the West.
I know it, but I thought you said Butte was a West.
Who?
I didn't know
No,
Butte
you
West.
misunderstood.
Yeah. Well,
Joe West died, he was a Ben. We agreed on that?
Yeah.
But do we know who he married? A Martha Chastain? Is that right? Or
That's what we think, yeah.
we think. How about the Chastains? Did you ever follow that line out, or
No.
you think that?
You
Huh?
couldn't.
All right.
That's
Now,
about right.
now, does anybody, since his sons were Sam went to Arkansas, Ben went to Alabama, did your daddy ever get the family Bible? Did his father Ben? Oh, his father Ben died when he was very young.
That's right. He was a baby.
He was a baby. I
He was
see.
raised by other people.
Who raised your father Joe?
Uncle Sam and Aunt Elizabeth.
Would that mean Uncle Sam, the cobbler, this one?
Yeah.
That
Yes.
was the preacher.
Sam
That's the
raised
one.
your father?
Yes.
Well, I knew there's some connection there, but I didn't know.
And these other boys too, when they were small. There's 3 of them.
I didn't realize that.
Their mother
That,
died.
that
when they
means
were
all
2.
3, huh?
Their mother died when they weren't much old.
Well,
Brother died first.
is that right?
Yes.
I know you got one move today.
Now we're beginning to put something together. That's why you don't know much about, like
That's
Martha
right.
Chastain.
That's
She
right.
died. How old were you when your mother died? Do you
Well,
have
she
any?
died
Raised by Sam
about
because
25.
Ben died of pneumonia during the Civil War.
Yes.
Well, it
Measles and pneumonia.
measles or pneumonia.
Yeah,
one, I
and
don't know
measles and
which, but
pneumonia.
I thought it was measles.
Did you ever hear of whether he had brothers who served in the war? If I check the records,
No, I don't know.
whether
I don't
Sam,
know
Jonathan
about
F.,
that.
Bill, or Jimmy.
He's bound to have had though, because they had people back then married more than.
Well, how much older was Sam, would you guess, than your grandfather Ben? You have any idea if Sam?
No, I don't know.
In other words, Sam, Ben, and Joe, that's your uncles and your father, were raised by their Uncle Sam. Huh?
Yeah, see, their Ben's daddy's place, where the Della lives now, joined this other place, and his people would have been well-to-do people, but the relatives took all the little boys had, land and everything, I reckon, for looking after them. And what about the West in Texas? These oil fields, see, Ben had some people in Texas that was,
Which Ben now went?
this Ben here.
Yeah, which?
His daddy had people in Texas. He would inherit.
They
A
were
rod, yeah.
Blackwells some way or another. There's a Blackwell come in on it.
Did the Blackwells marry in, or were
I
they
don't know.
Blackwells?
But they didn't have money to go investigate. That's why we got this Texas here in our,
Blackwells was the name?
yeah, it's in there.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me.
But they came down from wests that left for the west, for Texas,
Yeah,
huh?
yeah, there's something out there.
They married into Blackwells, you think?
I suppose so, because they struck oil out there.
And-
My daddy and his brothers all did inherit a share in that oil.
Your daddy did?
They would have, they could have got it, they didn't
It
get
come
much.
down so many generations, there wasn't too much.
When
good.
do you think they inherited it? Around what year? Then it can be looked up.
You was very young,
I don't know.
in the teens, said you weren't old enough to go, when they let you know.
What year could that have been?
That's your daddy, Joe, and he's inheriting because of his father, you think, or because of some
Don't
other
know
connection?
how. I don't know how.
Or through his mother, you
That
don't
would have
know.
been, I imagine,
Through the
in
Chastains or through-
60, it would have been 55 to 60 anyway, years
Ago.
before he would have been, yeah, had to been. Because Ben said he just didn't have the money to go there way back then.
Back at the time, you didn't have money to go out there to see about this stuff. See, what I could have done is go out there and paid the back tax on this land and took it over.
In Texas.
That's
You
right.
ever hear where it was in Texas?
Used to
The
know.
Black River
Mm-hmm.
out there. It was on Black River.
And did your father ever the three boys were raised just like they were Sam's own children? Or did they have resentments or anything, do you think, the way they were raised?
Well, I don't know what that, but,
Like if they called him Uncle Sam, what did they call his wife? Was she like Aunt
Betsy
something?
Ann, her name.
Elizabeth.
Aunt what?
Nickname, Betsy Ann was her nickname.
That would be Sam's wife, was
Yeah,
Betsy Ann.
Betsy Ann.
Of course, they all call her Elizabeth, you know.
Yeah, that was her name, but everybody called her Betsy Ann.
But her real name was Elizabeth?
Yes.
We don't know who she was, what?
Cole.
Yeah, Cole. She was a Cole.
C-O-L-E?
C-O-L-E.
Uncle Sam?
C-O-L-E, Cole.
Married Elizabeth Cole. That was Uncle Sam. Okay. That's carrying it back pretty well.
Well, that's my daddy's Uncle Sam.
That's right, your daddy's Uncle Sam.
The
We're
man
getting
that
back.
raised him.
Very important because
Yeah.
see how that now, if we meet a Sam in another family in Habersham
You'll
that's
know.
not married to a Cole, it ain't the same thing.
That's right.
There's Sam over here.
Yeah, there's a lot of these that get you very confused, like
That's
Bearden's or
And they,
Reese's. There's just so many of them,
Oh, I
they can
know.
throw you.
you can even go in
That's
that-
why that book, there's another book throwing the multi people. Let me tell you about that now. They're all buying it. I told JF,
Yeah, we just
Alto
we bought
son.
this one. It's
well, let me
worth
tell
the
you, it
money.
isn't even the same thing. There's a fellow written a letter to him from New Mexico saying if you want to read a historical novel about John F. Mulkey, a backwoods Baptist preacher in the mountains, send this money, so we can send it to New Mexico.
Yeah, and then
Well, what it is a novel. It's not even a genealogy. The novel is about a preacher that went to Kentucky, and it's not. You follow me? You're not even sure.
we have
it's-
some little books with different
You
names.
see what I
like
mean?
that.
And all of them are sending
Just
their money
stories,
and
a
getting them
novel.
because they want a connection to figure out what it is. You know.
Yeah, it don't mean a thing. Hey,
No.
Oh,
let me see what I can find. Sure.
Now Jonathan F. married a Spriggs. We know that. That was Martha, wasn't it? On the
Yeah, that's right.
on that. I just read it off the gravestone, but I didn't have it here.
oh.
Did you have much to do with Uncle Jonathan?
Oh, yes, they.
Yeah, we live
I-
right there in a half mile of it.
Was
I've been
Uncle
to his
Sam,
home.
would you say it's true to say that Uncle Sam, Uncle Jonathan, Uncle Bill, and Uncle Jimmy were all full-bearded men?
Yeah.
I know that
They were.
Uncle Sam and Uncle Jonathan was, but the other, I couldn't say about that.
I was told all four were.
But
I
believe
imagine they were.
And you see, you're making something clear to me. Every time the Ben of that family came up, nobody told me he died.
Yeah, they just
young,
don't
you
know,
see.
you see.
The reason they wouldn't remember him as being full bearded, he was dead after he just had 3 small
Yeah,
children.
that's right.
So they wouldn't know whether he was full bearded.
Well, now, just like my daddy died in the spring before we was, no thanks.
I don't have that down on you either, you know.
Was married,
No, thank you. I don't.
and, you know, he was just 44 years old, and my daddy was a clean-shaved man, didn't have a mustache either. But to me, back then, my daddy was an old man.
Let me
You
go
see?
back, if I can, with you a minute, where I know you and Hoke. What was your parents' name?
My mother was Nancy.
Were you an older or a younger sister?
Oh, I'm the oldest of the
you're the
of the
oldest.
5.
There's
There were 6
five.
of us.
All right, what was your father's name?
Charlie Landrum Goss,
That's right. And he was a son of Pink.
a Pinkton Goss.
Now,
A Baptist
let's go back
preacher.
that line, okay? That was a preacher, right? He was
That's
a
right.
preacher, Reverend Pinckney Goss. Do you know who his father was, Reverend Pinckney Goss?
Oh, he was he was Dave Goss. But I don't know my grandfather's, my daddy's, let's see.
You know who Reverend Pinckney Goss married, though?
Well, he married Mary Elizabeth Reese.
Right. But how about David Goss? You sure of that? He was
Yeah,
the father.
but see, he died, and see, Dr. Goss was the only one. There was my grandfather, Pinckney Goss, David Pink Goss,
Yeah.
and Nathaniel
He was a doctor,
He was a
Nathaniel.
doctor, just the 2.
So what,
Just
they
the
were
two.
the 2 children of David?
Just
All
the 2
right.
children.
All right.
No sisters, just 2 children.
So Dr. N.H. Goss,
Now, N.C.
N.C. was it?
N.C. Calvin.
Nathaniel?
Nathaniel Calvin.
I want to get that right. Now, do you know the children of Nathaniel
He
Calvin?
didn't have any children.
Who did he marry?
He married Corey Heath.
What's the last name?
Heath. H-E-A-T-H. Heath.
Okay.
That was Dr. Goss.
His wife.
And no children.
No children, but they had an adopted daughter, Belle
Ray.
Ray.
Bell, R.A.
Why?
So there were only 2 children. Who did David Goss marry? Do we know that?
My daddy's I think I'm not sure. She's Dinsmore though, I think.
A Dinsmore.
Yes, it's been more related than that.
So there's related.
And if you go out the other way, instead of Reverend Pinckney Goss through Mary Elizabeth Reese, who was her father?
Marion Reese. Now wait a
Marion?
minute. Her father was James. Found that out last year. I've run into history.
James
Yeah,
Reese.
James Reese.
Do all the Reeses spell their name the same way in Gilmer?
R-W-C-E.
C-E. There's
Yeah.
no S-Es.
They don't have any SEs there, but
Right.
other
In other
places they do.
places they have the
Yeah,
S-Es.
that's right.
Do you know who James Reese married?
He married Polly Southern. S-O-U-T-H.
Oh, now you're connected both ways. You're into
Yeah.
the Southerns,
That's right.
and then at Charles Landrum, you're into
Did I
the
say
Evans.
Polly? Did I say Polly?
Yeah, you said.
Oh, well, Polly was the nickname. I found out from my aunt just a few months ago that my daddy would be my great-grandmother, that her name was Mary Elizabeth too, same as my own grandmother's name.
And she was just called.
Polly was a nickname.
Now, which way, let's see, through Charles Landrum, you get into the Evanses too, and
Yeah, my
Family.
mother was Nancy Evans.
your mother was
Yeah,
Nancy
Nancy
Evans.
Dosha Evans.
Nancy,
Dosha's what they called her.
but her full name was Nancy
Nancy Theodosia, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Lily.
Theodosia,
Theodosia.
T-H-E-O,
Yeah, T-H-E-O.
D-O-S.
S-H-A. Yes, D-O-S-H-A.
Is that how they spelled it?
Yes. Dosha.
And she was called Dosia?
Yeah, that's
And
what-
how would you nickname Dosia? How would you spell the nickname
You
Dosia?
want Stacy?
Well, they just called her Dosha, D-O-S-H-A.
Mhm,
My daddy always called her Dosha.
mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Now, have you ever followed the Evans family back, Uncle Bob Evans? and
Yeah,
and
we
Mary?
have pretty good.
You got a pretty good run on that?
Yes.
Her father was Uncle Bob Evans.
Oh, you mean
Uh,
my mother's father?
yeah, your
Yeah.
mother.
Robert Buford was his name.
I didn't know his full name, Robert Buford.
Yes.
And then, do you know his father?
His father was Dave Evans, and he was a herb doctor, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, herb doctor. That's all we kind of had back then. And also a preacher. He was a preacher too.
Yeah.
And do you know who Uncle Bob Evans married?
Now, you've got that dozen times on that book.
Now,
I
you mean,
probably got it back, yeah, Uncle Bob Evans.
you mean my grandfather,
Yeah,
her Uncle Bob?
yeah, mhm.
Well, he married her aunt,
Married Nancy Moore.
Nancy Moe.
Nancy Mulkey, all right,
I
yeah.
know you've got it.
But now, who did David, his father, marry?
I don't know about that. I never did
No,
know
I
that.
don't know who I believe though she was a Cantrell, don't you know? That's where the Cantrells come in.
Both ways?
Yeah.
Because you got, well, no, you got
Wasn't the
Cantrells in
preacher-
in
And
Ben's
they're
family.
kin folks.
Are they
Was-
kin?
Yeah.
Okay.
But not enough to count. You know, I told you
Yeah,
out
right.
there.
mhm.
Wasn't enough to count.
In a county like that with just so many families, there was a lot of people
Well,
who
it
were
was
pretty
no
close.
names. But see, my grandfather Evans, he was also raised an orphan.
Your grandfather,
Evans,
okay,
Bob.
Bob, was raised an orphan?
Yes.
Why was that? What had happened to David?
Oh,
Had he
his
died young?
mother, no, his mother died, and someone else had to take care of him. He was the baby of the family.
Uncle Bob was.
Yeah, Uncle Bob.
How many children did David have then, do you think? A bunch?
Let me see now. He had a brother, He had 2 brothers.
You're naming Uncle Bob Evans
Yeah,
and
and
2
I mean
brothers.
my grandfather, Uncle Bob.
Yeah,
The Robert Herschel. Robert Buford.
Robert Buford.
Robert Buford.
Yeah,
He had two brothers
that were older than him.
that was older than
Who were they?
One got separated from him during the war they fought in back then, Civil War. He married a Indian girl, and they never would have anything to do with this Indian girl.
That was
And
the oldest brother?
Oldest brother, and he drifted away, and so they didn't know whatever come of him. And the other one, I don't know what killed him, but I've heard my mother speak about he must
You
have
mean
died.
he lost both of his brothers?
Lost both of his brothers.
How about his father?
Well, his father,
Lived to be an old
I
age?
guess he lived to be pretty
Did he
old.
lose his mother
He
young?
lost his mother, and his father married a cousin to his first wife, was also a cantrell.
So David Evans' first marriage was to a cantrell.
Yeah, and the last marriage was to
Does he have half?
Didn't have any half brothers and sisters. Didn't have any half brothers.
No children from the
For the
second.
last, no second marriage.
I never heard this before.
And
Now,
Granddaddy had 2 sisters, but now I'd have to think. I have a picture there.
who were? You have a picture of Uncle Bob Evans? And
That used to be in some of Mother's pictures from a lady that she lived in Murray County. Charlotte was one of his sisters.
one of his sisters.
Yeah, the
That was
biggest.
older than him? He was the youngest?
He was the youngest child. Charlotte next, and she died with diphtheria.
Mm-hmm.
And then the older sister married a man, I don't know how come or nothing, but
Was it-
anyway, a man that lived in at Chatsworth. And they had family, but I don't know, Granddaddy would go visit her, but I don't know, I can't think
They
of
live
that
near
name.
Chatsworth.
Chatsworth. Seemed like, I can't think just now what their maiden name was. But I
So he had
remember
2 sisters, and one of them was Charlotte, who died when he was...
when she was young, just 13 or 14, I think. And so that's all of his family that I know anything about.
So Uncle Bob really he was alone in the world, so to
Yeah,
speak.
he had to live with,
His first mother died young, did you say?
yes. I don't know what killed her,
Then he himself served in the Union Army.
yes.
And do you know of others in the family? Did his father serve in the Union
I don't
Army
know
or others?
about that now.
Because there were several Reeses and others that did serve in the Union Army, and then there were
like-
others that served in the Confederate.
I
That
hadn't
county
talked
was
too much
split.
about that, that's right.
The county
It
was
seems-
split.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It seems like that I heard them tell, I was very small, about, where they'd have to hide their food, like meat and things like that.
You
They'd
can
put it in
remember that.
ash barrels and, cover it with ashes. So what they call the blue coats,
Yeah.
come in, and the soldiers would take it. But now I don't think I'd want to put anything like that. I
No.
don't know enough to add nothing like that.
You would be hearing that really by hearsay
Yeah, that's
from
right.
your
I
parents.
didn't hear
Yeah.
that.
Uncle Bob probably come closer to living. Through it.
My grandfather lived to be 86,
Mm.
and my grandmother was 84.
Well, you're from long-lived people.
And my
That's-
mother's been gone 5
Yeah.
years in last month, and she was nearly 85. So.
Well,
And they had a big family.
they're a big family, and they're very well known, very well respected.
Yes,
You hear a
I'm
lot
proud
about
that
the Gosses and the Evanses.
that our family was that kind. Very, very grateful to our ancestors. So hers. We
Right.
didn't come from. We just actually, Lily, we got lots to be grateful for. We didn't come from trash, did we?
Didn't come from what?
Trash.
No, sure didn't.
Now
No,
she can tell you more than anyone.
Well, a lot of these people, you said that, for instance, David Evans, the father of Uncle Bob, was a reverend and an herb doctor, and then James C. Mulkey was a botanical doctor.
Yeah,
That was
so-
common at that time,
Preachers and doctors.
Mhm.
Not a preacher.
Yeah. Well, she did come back.
She said she'd be back. How's the car, buddy?
Yours got to come too.
Is the car
Well,
driving
they're
better?
still here, and he's still, your husband, you'll have to fix
How
him a
much
real
did he
good
charge you
supper
for,
tonight.
honey? What did he charge you for that?
$8.
That's not bad, if he straightened it up.
Well, we're gonna have to.
Yes,
I'll
we
tell you
are.
this, we're gonna come see you folks, if it's all right.
We just like to have you
Well,
anytime.
We've enjoyed this more than I can
Just
say.
Just
You're,
make put her in
you
the
were a
car
very
with us.
warm
I
person to
wouldn't
talk once on the
like
phone and
one bit
come right up and
if
see
you
Lily.
didn't.
Well,
Just
he
Well,
said he's been up looking for you, and I
Well,
told him
I did.
just how to get here.
Cousin Lillie,
You've been
Shirley McDonald, Miss McDonald. Shirley McDonald's the one that got us in talk to find out where you live. I sent her this paper. Well, Hawkins tried to find you one
Or you
time.
know, you'll know how
And
to
he
do
didn't
it.
find
Probably
you.
read about it when it appeared
Yeah,
in the
we
newspaper.
read it.
Well, I don't know.
I
No,
bet you
but
they
don't
could
seem
have
to
been
have
rolled.
been.
But I
hard to
can
find.
understand
Over
why
here when I come into
at this food market
flyers for
and this a big
come out there
5 and 10
about 2
cent
miles,
store,
I
a general
took the
store or
left,
something.
and I come on
over
through
here,
and I come
They
into
didn't, and
another
they never heard of you,
main highway.
but these
Don't
clerks.
blame
That's
did.
ridiculous.
Yeah,
Don't
that's
blame it.
right.
I've had my.
I'll be writing to you when I return that. I'll send you these
Okay.
pictures, and then you can tell
Now,
us
you want
this
to make any of this?
what, I don't want the book, all I'd like is to copy the papers and mail them back to
Well, we
you.
just got this book last year, and I don't
Yeah.
think it's worth a dime.
No, I just would like to copy all it is.
Take this better. Now, here's, if you want to write.
Yeah, I'd like to keep
McDonald,
this and copy that, and I'll photocopy all this
And
and mail
all
it
this
to you.
other, I don't.
I'd like to just copy all this and mail it to
One of them
you.
may be a letter to me in there, but don't.
See, I come out of Blair.
Well,
No,
yeah,
listen to him. He comes out, you
I
know.
come out of
I
Blair.
gotta write how you get to your place.
Well, Ben, you'll know the way now.
Yeah.
Dan, tell him how you, he's very good at telling directions.
Right here in Blair. I come out of there and I come down 19 here piece,
Yeah.
and I come to a left-hand road, and I took that left-hand road.
Yeah,
right
they
over
come,
here,
they
and then
come
went
in,
into
Billy.
the big highway.
I've got a chance. If I can go that way, I don't know where that goes. The big
Yeah,
highway.
yeah, let me cut this off. Now, Ben West and his wife Grace had to leave Mama,
Mhm.
and he was telling a lot of real important recollections about Gilmer County as he remembered it a little later than you, by a few years, maybe 8 or 10 years, huh?
Yeah,
He's probably 8 years younger than you.
yeah.
But I noticed you were quiet during a good bit of it, and I wondered
just
about your
remembered
own recollections of starting
I
school.
just remembered.
How about these big boys that he described that went to school,
Well,
180
they were-
pounds?
Yeah, well, there's someone to Grandpa West and then schools that I went to is just as old, or just as heavy, I mean. Now, Virgil had done something, he had a fight or something or another.
Who was Virgil?
Virgil Murphy,
Mm-hmm.
one of my uncle's boys. But he was a bully, tried to be. But there's two, him and another boy had a fight, that's what it was, and Grandpa got him up,
This was Grandpa
Grandpa West,
and Nathaniel Benjamin.
Nathaniel Benjamin. And he called him up, and investigated. They fought before, and he warned them about it,
Mhm.
Maybe, and Virgil, he was expecting. That was his second offense, and the other boy was first. He just fought him. And Virgil had a fight with another boy, and he let him off if he behaved himself and wouldn't do it more, and he would whip him. Well, when he had another fight. Well, Grandpa got him up on the floor, and was talking to him. He said, "Now, boys," he said, "I'm going to have to punish you." He said, "I told you, no more fighting." And he said, "Virgil, this is your second offense." And he said, I have to go do as I promised you I'd do." He said, "I'm going to break a promise to you," and he said, "I just have to punish you." And he called the other boy. He said, "I'll take you first." And he called him up, and give him 2 licks. He never did.
How big a man was Grandpa West?
Well, he was about like this man in here, about like Ben,
Mhm.
and maybe a little heavier. Yeah, he was heavier. Well, he give this other boy 2 stripes, and told him to go back to sleep. He walked up to Virgil, just walked around. Virgil was standing back before, and he just walked around and out. He'd come out with a little switchblade knife.
Who pulled the switchblade?
Virg,
Mhm.
Virgil Mulkey. Told him he was a bully.
Mm-hmm.
And he just lit out at the door, or run out in the yard, turned around with that knife in his hand, and he said, "Come and whip me if you think you can." Grandpa said, "Virgil, I hate to do it, but I'm coming after you." And he went, when he got to the door, he let about, looked like 5 foot out in the yard, landed right at the boy. He said, as he started, he said, "Drop that knife." The time he hit the ground, the knife hit the ground. He really tanned his jacket. And he come back, when they come back in the house, these other boys, that he'd brag to it, he wouldn't take a whipping. He'd never give him a whipping. And
He whipped him then good with his fist.
Yeah, and they said, "I wouldn't let him whip me." And I said, "You're a coward if you take a whipping off on him." And they come back. They said, Virgil, you said you wasn't going to let him whip you. He said, "Why didn't you?" Said, "You had it on him. Why didn't you run?" He said, I wouldn't have should have took a whipping for him." Virgil says, "You would if your daddy'd have been like mine."
What do you mean by that?
Well, if he'd run off and hadn't taken a whipping, Uncle Ben would have tore his jacket up. He'd done worse than Grandpa West would. And he was afraid. He knew he had it doubled up.
Yeah. Actually, Ben just mentioned them pulling knives, and you just have mentioned them pulling knives. But were there many stabbings or cuttings, or were they mostly bullying? They were just showing their knife for like a show?
None that I never knew of.
You never knew of them to take the knife and cut the man?
Unless somebody drew a knife, and tried to take it away from him, they might get stabbed or cut.
But there weren't stabbings in school or cuttings that you know
I
of?
never knew anybody get cut in school.
This was more bluff, you think, of boys?
Bluff.
In a showdown, they were going to fight with their fists, so that the teacher was smart enough and more mature to knew
they
it.
wouldn't fight. They'd run. If they got hemmed up, if they raised a fuss.
But that meant smaller men, say, let's say this Virgil weighed 180 or 90, and if Uncle...
he weighed a good bit more than Grandpa did.
If Grandpa West only weighed 140, they had to have a lot of guts to know that the boy was going to drop the knife and
Grandpa
run.
West had it.
Had you seen him do that, other things like that?
I've seen him whip. I saw a girl run from him once. Grandma got sick once, and our grandpa was teaching, and he sent. They sent after him to the schoolhouse when he got Charlie, my oldest brother, to take charge of the school. And said, "Just take charge, and don't think anything will happen." But he said, "I'll get a report when they come back if anybody misbehaved." Well, when he went home, then he sent somebody back after the children. They thought Grandma was dying. And when they come back, and they're all, of course, the children are all crying, they're scared to death. And there's a grown girl in there, Louisa Cannemer. She's 5 foot tall, long-legged as everything, and she, when they come in, the children were crying, she got to aggravating them, and she got their books, and she got their hats, and just running around with them, you know, and Charlie couldn't do nothing with it. He didn't have no right to. Grandpa didn't give any instructions for him to switch one, but he reported it. Well, the children went home and told her. They was late of getting home, and they told her, and he come back and asked Charlie about it. He talked to Louisa about it. And I don't remember what she said. I was there, but I don't remember the argument they had. But anyhow, she talked pretty ugly to him. And he said, "Louisa, I'm going to have to give you a whipping." And she said, "No, you won't." And she run out to the door here, the front door of the school, and then there'll be a high door at the back end. She jumped out of that door and run, and him after. He lit out. He went ahead. Oh, he went just way out in the yard and run the brush pile, that big pile of brush in the yard, and on the playground, and she had to go around it, and he jumped over and caught her. He gave her a whipping.
What girl was she? Do you remember who she was?
There's a lot of Canterbury.
The Canterbury's generally were not big
Well,
trouble,
they never
were they?
gave her in trouble. She was the only one. She was aggravating and mean as a thing. But she went on home, and she never did come back to school no more. Never went to school another day in her life. She died an ignorant old maid. There was some children like that. They wouldn't take a whipping to school. They'd quit school before they did. Sometimes they'd change teachers and they'd come back.
Now, nowadays, they have no whipping in school. Do you think children, you couldn't have operated the schools in those days without the right of the teacher to whip them?
Well, it would have been, I don't know. Children weren't as unruly then as they are now in school. Just a few, once in a while, you'd strike
But
up.
when you had a bad one,
They had a bad one, you had to handle them. If you didn't, it'd ruin the whole school. Others would take pattern.
especially
if
the
a teacher,
different ages being
yeah,
thrown
if a
together.
teacher let, well, I did. I went to school with boys who's up 25 years old, regular students.
Still going?
Yeah, they didn't have anything else to do. No cars, no nothing to.
Why didn't the father use them for labor at home?
Well, in the wintertime when the school
Oh, yeah,
was
there's
in
nothing to
session,
do anyway.
What they could do is keep firewood, and that was they just went to school.
I forgot to ask him about, I was going to ask him about his mother kept the post office for 30 years, like whether they ever had boxes or whether,
No, they had no boxes.
you just asked at the window for
Everybody
your
went to the
mail.
went to the post office.
Yeah.
And they had a man, just like it was there where I was raised. As they organized that post office at Snyder, they got John Walker got it. He got a petition to, and went around and got signers, and they got a post office there.
That was at
Snyder.
Snyder.
Well, that was 4 miles from Dyke. There was Snyder and Dyke, and about 6 or 8 miles again to from Dyke to Orr, and then about
How do you spell that last one?
ORR, and then on to Jasper, about 6 miles again. And they carried it. They had these little mail pouches, mail pockets they used to call them.
Right on the horse, on each side, yeah.
Yeah, and you put the mail.
Did they ride a mule more than they rode a horse?
Well, they all depended on the mail carrier. If the mail carrier, the man that got the route, had a mule, he rode a mule, and it didn't make any difference about that. Sometimes they'd go on a buggy if the mail was going to be heavy. Well, they'd get on that mule, and it was 16 miles from Snyder to Jasper. Well, they had to ride that mule, hot or cold, rain or snow.
3 days a week?
Yeah, well, it was every other day, and then they got it every day. Well, everybody had to go, everybody up above, well, lived around Snyder to get the mail there. They put a box up. They put boxes, but it wasn't a real route. They'd have the boxes so the mail carrier could just put them in, put the mail in.
They didn't call them rural routes yet.
Box. You just a square box.
Square wooden box to begin with?
Yeah, wooden boxes, big. And
set on a post like it is today
yeah,
with
they set it on a post or stump if it happened to be one handy, and they'd the mail would leave the mail in the box. People that lived off the route,
Yeah.
but the people that lived on the road, sometimes they'd get out and meet the mail carrier between post offices.
You described most of those families as living a few hundred yards off the road in those days.
Yeah. Well, they knew when the mail was coming. If they were going to send out mail, they'd walk out to halfway.
And give them the postage,
just
you
walk
mean?
out the closest place to the road, and
Yeah.
let the mail carrier would
You'd
take
give them
the
the
letter and
postage.
take it on, give them the money, and take it on, and put stamps on it.
At least it was only a penny or two then.
Yeah, that's 2 cents for a letter. And it was, they'd carried it that way for a good long while, and then they got the rural route through.
I was wondering if I asked him, but I'll see him, I guess, now that I know where he is. Like, how many papers came into a post office like Lick Log? How many people read the LJ paper? You know, he might know by knowing how many since his mother was a postmaster, how big a
Well,
bundle came in?
I couldn't say, 'cause I know my daddy always took the LJ paper.
Then he mentioned correspondence. Do you know who was the correspondent for your area? The foot of Burnt Mountain?
You mind write letter?
Yeah, they would tell the news of that area. Would they have news in the LJ
Well,
paper?
no, not too many, not in, when I, way back on it.
When you grew
But
up?
later, in later years.
When you got married, can you remember reading news more?
Oh, yes,
than
I wrote
when you-
news before I got married.
Did you?
Me
What'd
and
you
Ben
write
Walker
about?
used to write Snyder News.
Snyder News. You called it the news
Yeah,
of Snyder?
things that happened around,
Yeah.
around
You'd mail it in to the
mail it to the
Courier
paper, the
Times.
press. There used to be two papers in LJ.
What was the other one?
One was the LJ Courier, and one was the LJ Times, and one was the LJ Courier.
Then they combined them.
Yeah, they combined them, they call it the Times Courier.
That came later.
Yeah, a lot later.
But at the early times, it was two separate papers.
Yeah, the two papers. It's kind of like this up here in
Yeah.
Blairsville. This new
Yeah.
jokers put that,
Yeah.
started that paper up, like
Right.
Ron L. Akins did, and
Mhm.
I think they're about to play out.
Mhm.
I don't hear much about it,
Mhm.
but it's not. They're not doing too good.
Now these Gosses, do you know? I'm trying to figure out if Bob Evans fought on the Indian side. Did some of the Gosses? Which ones were Republicans more, Gosses
I
and
don't
Evans,
know.
or do you
There wasn't
remember?
any of the older Gosses that I ever knew anything about.
Mhm.
Now, Dr. Goss, Dr. Nathaniel Goss, and Kent Goss were brothers.
Yeah.
And that's the only Gosses that I ever knew anything about in Gilmer County. Of course, I know they had parents, but I don't know.
Mhm.
And
I
don't
didn't
know-
realize that Evans had been raised at Uncle Bob Evans as an orphan, the way she describes either. He lost track of his whole family. She said he had an older brother who married an Indian. Do you remember that?
No, I don't remember.
You mentioned somebody marrying an Indian. I can't remember
That
who it
was
was.
my aunt, my dad, my mother's oldest sister, married a half Indian.
Your mother's oldest sister was a Sparks,
Yeah.
and she married an Indian, a Cherokee.
Jack Boland. I don't know what
Boland.
it was. I
Did
don't
they
know where he
move out
found it.
west, or did they
Oh,
stay
they
around?
went to the Indian Territory when
Yeah.
they got married. She married and went to the Indian Territory,
Mhm.
and but before my mother was born, and my mother never saw her.
Never saw her again.
No, she was 14 years
Yeah.
old, I think, when she left home. And she lived and died out there. She lived to be 108 years
Well,
old.
this is the only other connection I've heard like that. Until the other day, one of the Ruby or somebody said there were two old Indian women she remembered, but that's the first I
I
ever
don't
heard anyone
think she
say.
remembered them.
That must be stories,
Yeah, I don't think she ever remembered them, but
Yeah.
I remembered something.
because she
about it.
also said she met this colored man in the road that lived in the county, and she was very scared that night. And I said, "Why were you scared?" And she said, "Well, I don't know why I was scared." I said, "Well, didn't people tell stories? Something would scare a child." Then later she'd tell, well, they told stories about the Indians too, the same way to scare the children.
Yeah, well, I have no recollection of any Indians ever being in Gilmer County.
Did the first oldest people talk about the period when the Indians had been there and owned that country?
And not much. I never heard much about it. They didn't know too much about it.
The Indians had been carted away and railroaded
Yeah,
and forced out, and
Now, that's old man
whites came in.
Howell's daddy.
Mhm.
You know what Howell was?
Yeah, you mean Uncle Bob Howell down in
Yeah,
Kennesaw?
well, his father helped to drive the Indians out of Georgia.
But none of the Wests or the Mokies were part of the people that shipped the Indians out. They just
No,
came in
no.
after the Indians had
Yeah.
vacated the country.
Yeah, that was.
That must have been the troops or something, or the politicians
something,
that got
I
rid
don't
of
know
them,
what it was.
that sent them out west, because
There was no use in it. The Indians was
they were
bottom.
cruelly rounded up and deprived of their own
And
land.
described as being the meanest race in the world.
Mhm.
And who could blame them for it? It's just like there's an Indian boy used to drive the fifth store truck.
Here,
Yeah, he drives by here, and he was talking one day. They were so when they began to stir up, began to come with the Negroes, you
Yeah.
remember?
Yeah, right.
North House. He said, well, he said, this time will tell.
uh-huh.
And he said, the time will come when the whites would be a forgotten race, just like the Indians. And I said, yes, the Indians were treated. And I said, Negroes have been treated bad. And he said, not as bad as the Indians. And he said, I'm Indian, and I know what I'm talking about. He said, the Indian race is a forgotten race.
Yeah, they were driven out of it.
He said, they was here tending their own business, and Columbus discovered this place and took over. And of course, the Indians were living here independently by themselves.
No, this was their land, Cherokee land we're in right
they
now.
They were living here, hunting, had plenty of game. They didn't have to.
They didn't pollute this country.
No. And he said the white men come over and took over. And he said they had the war, war after war, and it always blamed it on the Indians, just like they did the Negroes after they was free.
Yeah.
And he said that the Indians would fight back, as forced to. And he said that the Indians wasn't hard to get along with if you think about it. Well, now, my brother said that, because there's a lot. And I tell people come in here, one old man come in here, I despised him. He'd raise Cain every time I come in, damn niggers, they ought to run them out of here, and send them back to Africa. I said, well, if they did, some low-down white man would go over there and capture them and bring them back. I said, the white men's the starting of all of this trouble amongst them. Oh, no, it's the Indians. They thought they were as good as the white. And I said they may. I said there might be some of things there. But I said to begin with, hey.
I'm going to go back and get that.
Okay, Larry, get another.
I said the Negroes was in Africa tending their own business. And the whites went over there and captured them, just like getting out and capturing squirrels, wild hogs or something like that, brought them over here. Now, northern people did it, but I said they were white. And they kept them, that they come to the idea that they wasn't to be as good on farms, work hands, up north as they would here. And they brought them down here and sold them to the south. And then when the South began to get pretty prosperous, they thought, but the niggers were good workers. Then I said, the white man rired up to free them. And I said, the white man set them free. I said, the Negroes didn't ask for it. They didn't know what was going on, what was happening. And then I said, when they did that, then they abused them. They treated them just any way in the world that they wanted to. And it's always been that way. It's the last few years, the Negroes sort of popular now. They kind of
They've come into their own.
Yeah.
But you feel the same way about the Indians, do you?
Oh, yeah. Well, the Indians really were worse mistreated than the Negroes.
Because this was their country
This
to
was their
begin
country,
with.
and they wasn't bothering anybody. And I know they used to tell stories about it, and children used to go spend the night with each other, and they'd go to bed, they'd tell stories. Well, one time there's a woman leaving us somewhere, and she was gone all the way, come back in home, went in home, and fixed supper, and they all ate, and she went to get in the bed. And the nigger jumped out from the bed and grabbed her and killed her.
They tell that when you were a little girl.
Yeah, I heard
That was a nigger or an Indian they'd be speaking of?
Niggers, man.
Yeah.
And
they hadn't even seen one then.
They tell about the Indians when they slip around, they could slip up on you. You wouldn't know what they was about. They'd grab you.
Quiet.
Oh, you know it. Yeah, they had some weird stories.
Some children would play that they were the Indians slipping up on the other, like cowboys
No,
and
they
Indians?
didn't play that. They just told the stories. Oh, later in years, I've seen them get out and play, chase each other out, golden hours and on. Play Indian. But that give people the fear of the Negroes and the Indians.
When children were little, they put the fear into them.
Yeah.
Well, it's hard when you do that to little children.
Well, I was afraid of I never saw but one Negro about 16 years old. They didn't live out in the country like they do now. It was all around the military.
And all you heard was things that they would grab you or hurt you or do something to you.
I know one time, Dad when, during the Civil War,
Mm-hmm.
there's a family of Negroes lived with my grandfather. I don't know
Which,
I don't know
with
that he
James
owned,
Seymour?
yeah, I don't know if he owned any slaves, but they lived close there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it might have been after the war, after they were free. They lived on Grandpa's farm. Oh, Al and Mary.
That was their names?
Yeah, and they had a boy,
Al and
Al
Mary.
and Mary. Robert, I believe. And they had, so they took their name from the slave owners, the owners, the men that owned.
So they had the name of Roberts.
Yeah, and they lived there and had to help Grandma. They lived with Grandpa's on Grandpa's place. And they'd help her do work. Mary would, and they now they worked on the farm. And they had one boy. His name was let me see what his name was. Faith.
Faith.
Faith. Well, she would, the old woman would come to my grandma's to work, and they didn't live too far, but they wasn't in sight. And they said a little while she'd have to go and see about Faith. She'd leave him at home, just by herself, just a little bitty boy, he was about 5, 6 years old. But she wouldn't take him with her. And one day Grandma said, Mary, why don't you bring Faith all over with you? Said he could play around here with my children, with Kimsey. They're about the same size. And she said, you mean you wouldn't care? She said, well, no, I don't care. Just bring him on over and then you won't have to worry about it. Well, Dad said he'd make enough whittle, and he'd make these little dancers out of spools.
This was Kim, your father.
Yeah, make these little dancers. And he said that child just loved him. And he said he's the best dancer he ever saw. He said he'd make that poor little fellow dance till he'd all fall out. Just for a dancer. Give him a dancer. And then he'd fix him something else. And they played together all the time. And so after